Hey everybody, so about 2.5 years ago I talked about the fact that I got a standing desk after I graduated from nutrition school. If things look a little bit different right now, it's because I got a standing desk. I might talk about that a little bit in the future, and that is only half true, as you can very clearly see. The full truth is that I got a treadmill desk. And if you've watched my vlogs that I produced over the past 3 months, you will have seen me using my treadmill desk a couple of times. And so today I am finally doing a review on my treadmill desk and how much it's changed my life in the past 2.5 years. It was definitely not a spontaneous purchase. I was researching treadmill desks for about 3 to 4 years before I actually splurged on one. And I think the first time I saw a treadmill desk ever was on one video by the Vlogbrothers, like way back in 2012. But one of the most frustrating parts about these treadmill desk reviews online is that a lot of these brands tend to contact these bloggers or vloggers and offer to let them loan or borrow the treadmill desk for a month to try it out. And then that person is able to write the review and then send back the treadmill desk. Very seldom do I actually see somebody who has spent their own money on a treadmill desk, invested in it and used it for well over a year and then posted a review on it. And so since I've owned this for a really good amount of time, an extended amount of time, 2.5 years, I finally feel ready to do a proper review on this. This video is going to be very long, so I'm going to put timestamps in the description below so you can jump to whatever part you're most interested in. So this is what my treadmill desk looks like. And I did tidy up a little bit around the treadmill itself, but generally speaking, the desktop itself, I do try to keep as tidy as possible because I have to clear all this stuff off when I'm doing my tabletop portion of my Corset reviews. So the less stuff that's on it, the easier it is to do that for me. That mess of wires down there, you won't get that with the new treadmill desks because the version that they came out with, I think in 2017, put everything basically into one wire that you plug in. So it has a lot of like internal wiring inside of like this frame there. So you're not going to get like all of those wires hanging down there. It does have a utility tray underneath. Sorry about the mess. It's not exactly the most tidy. I do have silicone right there when I need to lube up the treadmill belt. So here's the console, and the elbow rest right there is a little bit squishy. You can put up and down the desk height using these buttons here, down and up, and you also have 2 presets. So the preset is good for 2 people of different heights. Or if you want one for standing and another for sitting, you can do it that way. So you can pre-program that. So you can see that this has been used so much that all of the labels on the buttons have basically been rubbed off. But here's the power button. You can see it turns on there. This is a start button. Only I know it's a start button. And I'm walking. And then this is the pause button. Another thing that you can do is you have this little safety mechanism right here. So you can clip this to your shirt. So if you do get a little bit too far away, then this will disconnect. Or you can just pull that if you feel like you're falling. And that releases the connection. So nice safety mechanism there. This is a preset. So you can see that it goes up to 2.3 miles an hour, which is where I basically walk at. Changing the display here. So that's the distance I've walked, this number of steps I've taken, the calories burned, and the speed once again. These are up and down, so I can bring that down a little bit so we're not bouncing around the phone too much here. And go back to pause. And it gives you the stats here. So if you want to export this information, you can use the Bluetooth function. Another thing that you can do is to go into settings, just hold down change display, and you can set all of these different things. So you can put in your weight and it will adjust the calorie burn, the maximum speed, yeah, a bunch of stuff. You can turn up and down volume if you want the treadmill desk to beep or not. And yeah.
that's how it works.
So first of all, I want to talk a little bit about my status quo from before I owned my treadmill desk and how I sort of hit that breaking point where I knew that something had to change. So this was around September of 2016. I had just finished my board exams for my nutrition school. I was waiting for certification, but that was the unhealthiest I had ever felt in my life. I had knee problems off and on since I was about 10 years old due to misaligned patellas. So I had gotten physiotherapy for that. And in my 20s, I started taking glucosamine and chondroitin. I felt about 60 years old having to take those supplements, but you got to do what you got to do. But especially in undergrad, and then again when I was studying for my nutrition certification, all I was doing was sitting and studying all day. And apart from that, I was making my YouTube videos, I was doing other types of work, but a lot of it involved just sitting in one spot day after day. And so it was a very sedentary lifestyle, and my knees developed some pretty bad crepitus, or that crackling kind of like popcorn sound. And a lot of stiffness and pain. I was also starting to develop plantar fasciitis. I had gone to the doctor a couple of times with leg pain, that they said it was just cramps due to a sedentary lifestyle, so I just need to get up and walk around every so often. But one of the worst things was that I was still dealing with flare-ups every 2 to 4 months, I would say, of my sciatic nerve in the back here, and also in my neck and shoulders due to my car accident, rolling my car back in late 2014. So whenever I had a flare-up, whenever that happened, I was prescribed muscle relaxants and very strong painkillers. I would book a massage, and I'm not comfortable taking habit-forming medications, so I often opted not to use it. And what I really wanted was for my flare-ups to just go away and not come back. I didn't want to mask it by, just take some drugs and not feel it, because that's not really fixing it. So I was going to see my physician pretty regularly. I also had a chiropractor and a registered massage therapist. They were telling me not to sit so much, to walk around every so often. That will help with my sciatica. My chiropractor was giving me tips on adjusting my desk height and my chair height, and putting platforms underneath my computer monitor so that I can adjust the position of my head when I'm working. And those did help marginally, but it wasn't quite cutting it, and I was still getting the flare-ups. So that was the pain aspect, but if I'm being completely honest, there was also, I guess, like a vanity or a body image aspect, where August of 2016 was the biggest I had ever been. I was about 165 pounds, which I know to some people is not considered that big, but it is overweight for my height category. And I just stress ate while I crammed for my board exams. Again, I was in nutrition school, I knew better, but my biggest priority was just fueling my brain with as much sugar as possible so that I could pass my exams, I could finish my assignments, and then I would prioritize my health afterwards, which in retrospect was not a good idea. And I ended up graduating at the top of my class. My standing average was 96%. But I felt like a bit of a hypocrite because obviously I was not practicing what I preached in terms of feeding my body proper fuel and getting sufficient exercise to keep myself healthy. So it was September of 2016 that my board exam was finally finished. I handed in all my assignments. I was just waiting for my certification. And I had more time to focus on myself and my health. So I got back into eating well and working out again. And although I love high intensity interval training, and at one point I was really good at it, honestly at that point I was really burnt out. I had been running on fumes for so long at that point, and my hormones started getting out of whack. My cycle was changing in ways that I definitely should not have. And I just pushed myself too hard, too fast. And what I ended up doing was injuring myself again. I ended up with another flare-up in my neck. So that occurred like late September, early October of 2016. And that was quite possibly my worst flare-up I had ever experienced since the car accident had happened. So what it did was it started in the back of my neck, and then it spread through my left shoulder until I couldn't raise my upper arm at all, and bending my elbow even was a little bit iffy. And I remembered just lying flat on my back in bed and literally feeling the flare-up slowly creep, like inch by inch, down my back. It felt like my muscles were all slowly tensing and twisting themselves into knots. And it ended up going like down my arm, down my back, and around my left rib cage here until it even hurt to take a deep breath. At that point, even my bed was too soft and unreliable, and like the slightest vibration under me would have caused my muscles to spasm even more. So I spent the majority of 3 weeks on the floor of my bedroom just staring up at the ceiling. I don't even know what I was doing at that point because I couldn't really lift my arms, so I was probably listening to audiobooks at the time. But I'm not lying when I said it was agony. And most of the people that I talked to who had these types of injuries in the past, they told me that they almost never go away. You just kind of have to learn to pace yourself. You have to find a new normal. And that was scary, to think of myself as quite possibly being disabled for the rest of my life. And so my flare-up in total was about 3.5, almost 4 weeks long. And I got almost zero work done during that time, which was kind of another hit to take because my self-worth is kind of tied up in my productivity, and that is also something that I'm kind of mentally still working through because obviously that's not a healthy way to view yourself. But long story short, that was my breaking point. My knees sounded like bubble wrap, my sciatic nerve hurt, my neck hurt, my back hurt, my shoulder hurt, my ribs hurt, and I was still dealing with the leg cramps from being sedentary. I was starting to get the plantar fasciitis, as I said before. I was exhausted all the time. I felt very weak. And quite honestly, I also felt really ugly and ashamed. And I was aggravated that my body couldn't do the work that I wanted it to do. I couldn't work out as hard. I couldn't even live a normal life at that point. And at the time, I also felt like I had no effective outlet. I had no way to let out that frustration because my body wouldn't cooperate. So I got fed up, and I guess in a really disturbing way, I needed to experience that pain point because that was the catalyst for change. But I am also saying this from a position of privilege that I did have enough saved up that I could finally invest in the Treadmill Desk. So I knew that if I was dealing with burnout or adrenal dysfunction, then one of the only safe ways I could work out really would be to just walk for long periods of time. And walking was the only thing that I felt that I could do safely, like without any fear of further injuring myself. But before I officially invested in the Treadmill Desk, I just started by walking outside. Tibby was still alive at that point, so I did take her for walks, but she was older and she couldn't go for quite as long walks as I wanted to go. And that was, late 2016, so everybody was playing Pokemon Go, and I dabbled in that a little bit as well. But coming into October, it was getting a little bit colder. I didn't want to walk outside all the time. And to be honest, I needed to work again, and I couldn't be just sauntering outside for hours at a time. So I was like, how can I walk, but also check my emails, or write my blog posts, or edit my YouTube videos all at the same time? Oh, I know. How about that treadmill desk that I had been literally researching for like 4 years prior? So regarding my research and why I happened to choose the LifeSpan brand, I had already had quite a bit of information on different treadmill desks because I had researched them off and on for years, and I had been enamored with them since 2012. And I had even looked at different DIY versions because I'm sure that I could go onto Craigslist or something and find a treadmill for 50 or $100 and then just kind of put my desk on stilts or something. But I would not really be able to do that without some kind of significant help, especially because of the fact that I could barely lift anything above 10 pounds without causing my neck to go into knots. But quite honestly, my apprehension to build my own treadmill desk was basically wasting time. Like my hesitation, I just wanted to get started as soon as possible because I knew that there was almost no other way for me to remain active. So I was just, you know what, let's do it. I have enough saved up that I could probably get a treadmill desk, just buy one straight out. So what I did was I booked appointments to try out a few different brands of treadmill desks in the Toronto area. So if you are interested in like trying before you buy it, look for places that sell gym equipment, like home gym equipment, but also look for places that sell office furniture, and especially customizable office furniture, because you might be surprised. A lot of them do have like treadmill desk or those kind of like recumbent bikes attached to a desk. So I was reading online reviews, I was reading consumer reports, and I ended up going with LifeSpan for a couple of different reasons. So even though they are more pricey, they had free shipping to Canada. A lot of other places did not offer that. And if you live close enough to a city, the warranty and assurance still applies if you're in Canada as well. So I value that kind of security. I also called customer service agents for several different brands, and LifeSpan seemed to be the most responsive. They had the best customer service. Their agents seemed to know the most about their own products, and they already had a good reputation to start with. So I just decided to go with LifeSpan. And I'm not gonna lie, LifeSpan also had the most options in terms of the finish that I wanted. So I chose a really nice light maple desktop that happened to match my dresser over there and my little shelves. I don't know if you can see that behind me right there. Although unfortunately I think the maple version is no longer available because they kind of redid all of their treadmill desks in early 2017, I believe. Another upgrade I got was the width of my desktop. So you could choose between 38 inches or 48 inches. I went with the 48 inches because I just wanted more desktop room. They also had two different versions for the adjustable height. So you could get the manually adjustable one, and I mean, some other brands that you have a hand crank, but this one I think you just basically had to like lift it up and then like put in the knobs to lock it in place. I ended up splurging for the motor one. So if you can't really see this, but like you can, obviously the desktop is going up and down right now. So I'm not gonna lie, it was a little bit pricey to get those upgrades. I think getting a slightly wider desktop was another $50, and the motor adjustable height was another $300. But it ended up being like one of the wisest investments, because if I am getting any sort of soreness in my neck, all I need to do is adjust the height by a few inches and it puts me in a new position. It really, really helps. I tend to like my desk being a little bit higher if I'm doing writing and lower if I'm doing typing. And if I ever want to sit down once in a while, I can also lower the desk by I think about 2 feet. And if I am watching something on YouTube or Netflix, I like the monitor to be higher so that I'm not like craning my neck down. So I'm putting my desk up and down at least a few inches almost every day or several times a day. I sort of justify this upgrade by saying, if I'm going to use this thing, then I'm really going to use it. It needs to be ergonomic. It needs to be as easy to use as possible. And to be perfectly honest, I'm really, really glad that I invested in that, because I honestly believe that it saved me from further pain. Alright, so many of you are probably wondering how much it cost in total, so let's talk money. I ended up paying $1,850 US for this desk, which converts to about $2,315 Canadian. And that includes free shipping and warranty coverage and all of that good stuff. So that was the initial investment, but of course that's not the end of the story, because this is an electronic device that I am running every day. So the frugal physicist in me also wanted to calculate what this treadmill is using up in terms of energy. So the treadmill has, I think, a 2.5 horsepower motor in it, so about 1.8 kilowatts, and I was praying that was the full capacity and not like the average wattage used. So I acquired a watt meter, and as it turns out, it uses a little bit more than 1/4 of a kilowatt, so 254 watts in 1 hour, walking at a comfortable 2.2 miles per hour, which is what I do on average. Now, Ontario has fluctuating electricity rates. So at certain times of the day, we have high peak, which is most expensive. Certain times of the day it's mid peak, and then other times of the day it's low. So if I'm walking on average 2.2 miles per hour for 4 hours during mid peak in the weekdays, that converts to about $3.22 per month. And that's for moderate use. And I can easily spend entire workdays at my computer, but there are days that I am not at my desk. I am out running errands or whatnot, so I'm not using my treadmill desk all the time. So I estimate that the average energy cost of running this treadmill for 4 hours a day is turning out to be about $4.20 monthly, or around $50 Canadian per year, over and above my initial investment. I pay a stable monthly rent, so I don't actually see the numbers, like how much the electricity bill is costing. But from what I've been told, since I got the treadmill desk, the change in the energy bills have been pretty much negligible. So other people who rent might not really care about this, but for concerned homeowners, I thought this would be an interesting calculation to include in this review. Now, if you've been watching my channel long enough, you know that I have a little bit of a policy when it comes to utility items, and that is if I can get it down to spending $1 a day on this item, then I consider it paid off. So by that logic, I would have to use my treadmill desk every day for 6 years and 4 months to fully pay it off. I am more than a third of the way through, almost halfway through that, I suppose, and I see no sign of stopping as long as my treadmill keeps working. But other ways that you can think about justifying the cost is like the hours spent on it and your time investment, or the amount of calories burned, or your distance walked, for instance. So I know that there are a few gyms around here that, like, if you want to go to like a budget gym, it's about $50 a month. But many other gyms are like well over $200 a month around here. So I have already essentially paid off my treadmill desk by using it every day for the past 2.5 years, because I would have spent much more than that on a gym membership that probably I would not have used nearly as frequently. For instance, in the first year that I owned this desk, I wrote over 100 blog posts, I edited almost 70 YouTube videos, I balanced my books, I answered emails, I was on phone calls, I built Corset database from start to finish while I was walking, and that was the first year alone. The treadmill desk has a Bluetooth function, so if you want to collect all of your stats, after each session, you can actually log it. So I actually compiled some information. So in the first year, I walked 6.6 million steps. I was on it for nearly 1,200 hours, and I walked 2,415 miles. And I also burned over 181,000 calories, which is about 52 pounds of fat, if you believe in the whole paradigm that it takes 3,500 calories to burn a pound of fat. And in 2.5 years, I have walked 14.1 million steps. I've been walking for 2,602 hours. I've walked almost exactly 5,500 miles, and I've burned 413,000 calories, or about 118 pounds of fat. Again, if you believe in the paradigm that it takes 3,500 calories to burn a pound of fat. So to give you an idea of how far 5,500 miles is, if I started walking at the North Pole 2.5 years ago, right now I would be in Costa Rica. So I have almost walked a quarter of the full circumference around the globe. In another few months, I'll probably reach the equator, figuratively speaking. But let's talk motivation, because believe me, there have definitely been times that I lost a little bit of enthusiasm and I didn't want to walk every day. And when that happened, I joined StepBet. So, StepBet is not sponsoring this video, neither is LifeSpan. I just happen to use both of these things. So how StepBet works is you bet $40 American and you join a challenge for 6 weeks where you have to walk a minimum number of steps each day, or at least 6 days per week, and you get 1 day off for rest. And if your pedometer shows that you had kept up your commitment over those 6 weeks, then they reward you at the end. Inevitably, not everybody is able to make it to the end of the challenge, and so the money that goes into the pot is basically split among the winners. So each time I do one of those StepBet challenges, I put $40 in, and I tend to get on average $50 to $55 back. So I'm earning $10 to $15 over and above what I had put in. So if I were to commit to 3 to 4 StepBet challenges per year, it will on average bring in around $50 Canadian, which would cover the electricity costs of running my treadmill every day for a year. And I've paused the treadmill just for a second so I can show you my bar stool here. So about 2.5 to 3 months after I got my treadmill desk, I realized that there are some things that I just can't do while I'm walking. For instance, pattern drafting, because that requires like a fraction of a millimeter in precision sometimes, or just having good penmanship, writing cleanly if I'm like writing cards out to people. So I was going to invest in some sort of bar stool or chair, and I kid you not, like within a week of my deciding to do that, I was walking Tibby outside and one of my neighbors was putting this out on this side of the road for the garbage truck to collect. And so I just grabbed it and brought it home. And it, by total coincidence, the finish on the seat here almost perfectly matches my desktop color, and it's the right height for my desk as well, and I have a small cushion that I can put on it if I need a little bit more padding for my butt. So I have probably used this on average like 1 day a week since the entire time that I've had my treadmill desk. The rest of the time I'm usually walking. So now let's talk about the changes I've seen in my body and my health since getting the treadmill desk. The most obvious difference probably to most people is my weight. So within the first week of using my treadmill desk, I lost 5 pounds. And that was also when I was eating more so that I could sustain the energy of being on my treadmill desk. So I had gotten this treadmill desk about a week before Halloween, and you know that I was popping those like fun size Aero bars and Kit Kat bars while I was, answering my emails or watching YouTube videos. So it's not like I was really dieting hard and walking at the same time. Within the first month of owning my treadmill desk, I was down 15 pounds, and within 2 months, I was down 25 pounds. And that drop was very rapid and very noticeable. So if you go back to my reviews in late 2016, there are quite a few people who are commenting on how quickly my physique is changing. All in all, I ended up losing a maximum of about 45 pounds since before I got the treadmill desk. Although if you have watched my vlogs from a few months ago, you will have noticed that obviously my weight has fluctuated quite a bit in the past 2.5 years. But the treadmill desk has also had a huge change in terms of my quality of life. So the first couple of weeks that I used the desk, I had a bit of soreness in my lower back and in my shoulders here because I was not accustomed to standing for such long durations of time. But after about 2 weeks, that discomfort in my lower back and shoulders had completely gone away and it basically never came back. My back gradually got stronger, and actually so did my core because I'm keeping it engaged when I'm walking. I try to maintain good posture at all times when I'm walking, and I was worried that I would actually end up having more back pain or foot pain or joint pain from standing all day, because I know that happens with many people who work in customer service, cashiers and tellers and whatnot, anybody who stands still and stands in one place day after day. But actually it is so much easier to walk for hours at a time every day than it is to stand in one place, because you are constantly moving and shifting your weight. So my legs and feet hurt more if I'm just standing in one spot as opposed to walking. Now there are some days that I am spending an entire work day at my walking desk, and I am spending 6 or 7 or even 8 hours walking, and obviously that is very tiring. So what I would do in that situation is I would stretch out my legs. I might have a warm shower or a bath. I would have some Calm tea, which is basically a magnesium citrate supplement, helps to relax the muscles, and I would just go to bed. And I've always bounced back within a day or two. These are the only times that I have ever experienced any sort of discomfort or pain from walking too much. But the pain that my treadmill desk has gotten rid of, like my knee crepitus, my plantar fasciitis, my sciatica, my neck flare-ups, all of those have gone down dramatically. I think it was only 2 weeks that I was using my treadmill desk that my knee crepitus was gone, and it's basically never come back. and within 2 months, my sciatica and my plantar fasciitis were both gone. The only thing that I really invested in terms of my plantar fasciitis were these insoles, and I replaced them in my shoes about once a year. I think you're supposed to replace them every 3 to 6 months, but yeah, I let them go for a lot longer than I probably should, but they really do actually help a lot. I used to have neck flare-ups about every 2 to 4 months, like I said before, and now it's less than once a year. And instead of the flare-ups lasting 2 to 3 weeks minimum each time, now they're usually just a few days and they sort of go away on their own, or I might just take an Advil for it, but that's all I need. I don't need any other prescriptions for it. And although I do go for occasional massages, they have definitely been stretched out more. And if I do happen to get a neck flare-up, it doesn't stop me in my tracks anymore, because I'm able to adjust the height of my desk by even a fraction of an inch sometimes to favor my neck posture, my head posture, my shoulders and arms to the point that I am not putting strain on them. So even if I do have a small neck flare-up, it still allows me to continue working, at least a little bit. With all the walking, my butt and my legs have become stronger and more toned. My hips and ankles and my knees have also stabilized more. I guess the only complaint I have is that my calves and my ankles are thicker now because they're kind of built, they're more muscular. So I can't like zip up some of my skinny boots anymore, but I'll take it. If it means no pain and having a stronger body, I'll definitely take it. My chiropractor has told me that my posture has improved a lot since before I got my treadmill desk. As many of you know, I do have a bit of a twisted pelvis and one hip protrudes a little bit more than the other, but he says that it's less twisted than it was before. It needs less adjusting, and I'm also holding my adjustments for longer. So before I had my treadmill desk, I think I was going once a week, sometimes twice a week. And now it's once every 2 weeks and sometimes even once a month. So my appointments have been cut at least by half, and that's saving me a ton of money as well. I had a physical exam with my family physician as well about 6 months after I got my treadmill desk, and unsurprisingly, all of my health markers have improved. And another thing that I did not anticipate was, although I am normally cold intolerant, throughout the past 3 winters, because I have been walking on my treadmill desk pretty much every day, I'm staying active, and that keeps me warm through thermogenesis. And also there's a small amount of heat coming off of the treadmill itself because you're running an electronic device, so it brings about some ambient heat. So I have been toasty warm throughout the last 3 winters. I have not needed to pull out my space heater for the past 3 years. My circulation has improved as well because the walking helps with venous return, so I'm not getting cold hands and cold feet anymore. And speaking of winters, I also feel that this amount of activity greatly helps with my seasonal affective disorder and my anxiety as well. So you can see, like, this is not very strenuous at all. I'm not even really thinking about it, but it is enough to, like, I guess count as fidgeting or like non-exercise activity thermogenesis. I would not really consider this steady state cardio because I don't really even think that my heart is elevated all that much, but it's enough to sort of like burn off that nervous energy if anybody else has anxiety and kind of knows what I mean by that. Like, idleness is the worst for me. But also, I'm not like lying in bed or flumping down in an office chair or on a couch feeling like a potato, because obviously that wouldn't be good for my seasonal affective disorder either. With the exception of last November, right before I started my vlogs, where I was still dealing with the grief of putting Tibby down, being in a long distance relationship when my partner moved away, and my family being sick and hospitalized, and it was a lot of stressors all at once, and I kind of stopped going on my treadmill desk and stopped taking care of myself in general and stopped sleeping. With the exception of that particularly stressful period in my life, the past few winters where I have been more active has been one of the mildest cases of seasonal affective disorder I had experienced since I started getting them when I went to university. It was a fraction of the intensity that it was in previous years. And I know myself, I know that inactivity tends to exacerbate my blues, but the ability to keep moving, even just some moderate walking like this, when there's like 4 feet of snow outside and I'm feeling cooped up and have cabin fever. It has been like night and day for my mood and my productivity through the winter. And what I really should do is to set some kind of alert for myself November 1st of every year to join another StepBet challenge to motivate me to stay active throughout November and December coming into the holidays, because it's usually that 6-week period that's the worst for me, and I just feel like I want to wrap myself up and be a potato. So it really is just getting started that's the hardest part. Once I'm already on the treadmill, it's easy to continue. So I know that a lot of this is probably sounding too good to be true for many of you, and that I'm like probably waxing too poetic about this desk, but like what I was worried might have been a frivolous purchase or a waste of money has turned out to be a huge catalyst in the improvement of both my physical and my mental and emotional health over the past few years. Like, I am not sure if I can like overemphasize or hyperbolize how transformational this investment has been for me and my health. So this has been an extremely long video. After I edit it down, I estimate that it's probably going to be 30 to 40 minutes in length. I have been talking for an hour and 15 minutes. And for anybody who's curious, I've been going at a very slow and sauntering pace of 1.5 miles per hour. I have walked 5,500 steps and burned about 150 calories. So it's that easy to get in just like the bare minimum of activity in my day. But I hope that this review was thorough and informative for those of you who are seriously interested in such an investment. I did not want to be fluffy or superficial about this video, which is why it took me so long to make. Like I said, this is not one of those sort of like first impression reviews where a company may have contacted a blogger and offered to loan them the Treadmill Desk for a month and then send it back. I have spent my hard-earned money on this. I've been using it nearly every day for the past 2.5 years, and the results are quite honestly more than I ever thought that they would be. If I could go back in time, I probably would have invested in a treadmill desk in like 2012 when I first learned about it, as opposed to humming and hawing for several years and just wasting time. And that battery is starting to blink at me, so I'm just going to end it here. Yeah, I'm not hyperbolizing when I say that this has been one of the wisest investments I've ever made, so I am very happy with my purchase. If you guys have any questions for me regarding the treadmill desk, or anything else, I guess, leave your comment down below. I'd be happy to get back to you. If you own a treadmill desk, either LifeSpan brand or a different brand, feel free to leave your impressions and your opinions of the brand that you have in a comment down below. And I guess that's it. Thank you guys so much for watching to the end of this extremely long video. I hope you enjoyed it, and I will see you all next week for another video.